All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to peel back the curtain on something we all interact with every single day, brand strategy. Yeah, that hidden playbook that pretty much shapes why you choose one thing over another.
Okay, so here's the game plan. We're going to start with the basics. What is a brand? Then we'll get into the Strategist Toolkit, these three awesome frameworks. We'll see how they all snap together, how they help brands grow, and then wrap up with the big takeaways you need to know. Sound good? Let's get into it.
All right, first things first. What is a brand? I mean, really, because I promise you it's way, way more than just a cool logo.
So yeah, the official definition talks about names and symbols, but let's be real. At its core, a brand isn't the logo, it's the promise. It's that gut feeling you have about a company. It's this whole collection of ideas that lives right up here, in your mind, and that's where the magic and the money is made.
And believe me, that value is very real. I mean, think about it. Brands with a ton of pull can charge more for their stuff. They create these super loyal fans who cost way less to market to, and honestly, they have this kind of safety net when things go sideways. Plus, all that strength, it's the perfect launchpad for jumping into totally new areas.
What's really interesting is that brands are doing two jobs at once. For us, you and me, the buyers, they're like mental shortcuts. They scream quality and help us avoid making a bad choice. But for the sellers, they build that loyalty, keep sales steady, and can even help them hire the best people. It's a total win-win.
Okay, so how do you actually build that gut feeling we were talking about? It's not just luck. Strategists have this awesome toolkit, and we're about to dive into three of the most powerful frameworks they use to shape how we see the world.
All right, first up, we've got the Acre system. Now, this is a really powerful way to slice and dice a brand by looking at it from four totally different angles: as a product, as an organization, as a person, and even as a symbol. What's so brilliant about this is how it forces you to figure out what's absolutely non-negotiable, the core, versus the stuff that can be a little more flexible.
And IKEA, wow, IKEA is the perfect example of this in action. Their core identity is democratic design. And that's not just some fluffy marketing slogan, right? It is reinforced by everything they do. The flat pack furniture, their obsession with keeping costs down, that friendly, practical vibe. Even that iconic little Allen key. It all points right back to that one single powerful idea.
Okay, framework number 2, Cafera's Brand Identity Prism. Now, if the Acre model helps you figure out the what, the core strategy, then this prism is all about the how. It's a tool to make sure that everything the brand says and does, from its colors to its tone of voice, is telling the exact same coherent story.
Let's take a look at Innocent Drinks through this prism. You see it instantly, don't you? The hand-drawn doodles and that simple little halo on the bottle. They perfectly match its playful, kind, and cheeky personality. And all of that flows from this internal culture of health and responsibility. It creates this relationship where Innocent feels like a helpful friend, not some preachy expert telling you what to do. See? Every single facet is just perfectly in sync.
And that brings us to our third framework, which is Keller's Brand Equity Pyramid. The logic here is so simple and so powerful. You build a strong brand from the bottom up. You start at the very bottom with just basic awareness, like, hey, do people even know who we are? And you climb step by step all the way to the top. And that peak, that's where you have this deep, loyal relationship with your customers. He calls it resonance, and it's the holy grail. So check this out. We can see this pyramid in action with the UK bakery chain Greggs. They used it to figure out, hey, why isn't our coffee a bigger deal in the mornings? They diagnosed the problem at each level. They weren't salient for coffee, so boom, ads near train stations. The performance was kind of mixed, so okay, upgrade the beans and train the staff. They literally built it up level by level, launching really specific moves to create that resonance with the morning commuter crowd. Okay, so we've got these three amazing frameworks, but how do you actually put them to work? The key thing here is that it's not about picking your favorite one. No, it's about using them together in a really logical sequence to build and manage a brand that wins.
And this slide, honestly, this is the secret sauce. This is the workflow. It's not random at all. You start with Acre to decide your core strategy. Then you use Cafera's Prism to express that strategy in a creative, coherent way. And finally, you use Keller's Pyramid to validate if it's actually working with customers and figure out what you need to fix. Say it with me: decide, express, validate. That is the sequence.
So once that core identity is locked in, the job's not done. Strategy then has to guide the really big decisions.
Like, how do you structure all your brands, and where on earth are you going to look to grow next?
Now, this is a really fascinating fork in the road for any big company, brand architecture. Are you going to be a branded house like Virgin, where that one master brand is slapped on everything from planes to bank accounts? Or are you a house of brands like P&G, with this whole stable of independent names like Tide and Pampers and Gillette? The trade-off is super clear. One model puts your core brand at risk if something goes wrong, while the other costs an absolute fortune to market.
Okay, so when brands want to grow, they often use extensions. But it's really important to know there's a huge difference between the two types. A line extension, that's like Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. You're still in the same ballpark, just trying to get a bigger piece of the pie. But a brand extension, whoa, that's a much bigger leap. Think about Dyson, using their expertise in airflow to jump from vacuums all the way over into high-end hair care. That's a whole new game.
But here's the thing. Extensions are super risky. The new product has to feel right, you know? It has to fit the parent brand's identity. So what happens when that fit just isn't there? Well, sometimes you get an absolute legendary failure.
Ah, yes, the infamous Cheetos lip balm. This is the textbook example of what not to do. And the reason it failed is pretty simple. It was a fundamental mismatch. A cheesy, dusty flavor profile is fantastic for a snack, but for lip balm, it just completely violates everything we expect from lip care. The brand fit just wasn't there, not even close.
But hold on a second. Here's the twist. Was it really a mistake? Or was it a calculated, absolutely brilliant publicity stunt? Just think about it for a sec. The product was so ridiculous, so out there, it was guaranteed to go viral. And it did. It earned the main Cheetos brand tons and tons of free press. It really forces you to ask, what was the actual goal here? Because, success isn't always measured in sales figures.
All right, so we've gone through the models, we've looked at some killer examples. What are the big essential principles of brand strategy that we should all be taking away from this?
When you boil it all down, what are the pillars of a truly great brand strategy?
Well, it's not just one thing. It's about building on a rock-solid foundation of a clear identity. It's about using that identity to make super smart decisions about how you structure yourself and where you grow. And it's about managing the risks along the way. You get those pillars right, and you build something that can last for a very, very long time.
And ultimately, it all comes back to this one powerful idea from Kevin Lane Keller, the guy who created that pyramid we looked at. He calls it mental availability. It's really just about being the first brand that pops into your customer's head at all the right times and in all the right places.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final thought. Think about a brand that you feel totally in sync with. I mean, one you're really loyal to. Why is that? What is it about them? Now that you've got the Strategist Toolkit, you can actually start to see the matrix. You can see exactly how they built that powerful connection with you.